Good morning, everyone. We are happy to welcome all of you to the second Asia CEO Online Forum. Before we begin, let's all bow down for the opening prayer. Father in heaven, we praise you for this day and your purpose for it. We come before you to seek your blessings on today's Asia CEO event. Reset our agendas as we sit in your presence. We know you are with us and for us as we gather together for this meaningful event. Please bless our speakers, speak to our hearts through their words. Be with the men and women who are responsible for organizing this event. We thank you for their servants' hearts. We ask that you allow us to be a blessing to one another by helping and supporting each other. We pray that the event will run smoothly, recalibrate our intentions, and refocus our hearts. Your will for our lives does not always reflect our plans. Change them to reflect your will. Help us to understand that we don't need full clarity to walk into the unique purpose you've inlaid in our lives. As the events of the day continue to unfold, we seek your clarity and your peace. Struggling for solutions amidst the crisis can seem impossible, but with your mercy, love, and guidance, anything is possible. Help us to endure disagreement and strife with godly courage and love. Grant us peace in knowing we are pursuing your purpose for our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all stand for the Philippine National Anthem.
Okay, thank you very much for everyone for being here with us today for the second Asia CEO Forum online. We had a lot of registrations and so forth, so please welcome everyone. Really glad to see, we're glad to have you with us, even though we can't always see everybody. But I think all of us miss the interactions we used to have with people. And so it's now digital, but it's a good thing, but it's a second place. Overall, though, Philippines has done well. I know there's a lot of tragedies and so forth when you hear about the medical professionals who are passing away. It's such a tragedy. But overall, compared to previous tragedies, this is a once in a 100-year situation. And we've done well. And it seems like life after COVID is now what people are saying, that the end is perhaps near. Let's see today how we're going to do that and what it's going to look like in the near future. So we have some really good speakers. I'm so pleased that there's so much interest to speak and to view. So, okay, so I'll just do a quick roll call of our speakers today. Our first speaker is Vic Tria, who's a key guy. There's Vic there, looking very good, I must say. Nice, Vic, welcome. With PLDT Enterprise. Our next speaker is Norman Agatep. He is the president of the Philippine Public Relations Society. Glad to have you, Norman. Looking very casual. Yes, okay, we're going to wave today. I like that. Next is the prominent Nina Aguas, the executive chairman of Insular Life, is with us. Always a smile from her, so we're very pleased. And a wave. Thank you very much, Nina. Next is the very busy and energetic Undersecretary Epimako Densing. This is a large group, so we're really glad to have Undersecretary Densing with us. Next, we have Undersecretary Toniso Umali of the Department of Education with us. And we're going to hear about his 800,000 teachers and what he's going to do with all of them. So we're really pleased to have everyone. I'm just touched that we have these people with us today, I must tell you. So, but first, we'll get going. Vic Tria, he has his formal title as first vice president and head of PLDT Enterprise. So anybody with a business of any size, this is the guy who keeps our connections going. And I don't know, I'm surprised how these guys have kept it all going. I know they've got a bunch of hundreds of people working as virtual prisoners, I call it, and making these things all happen. So we're really pleased to have him telling us how things are going to continue to work, and very glad to have you. Vic Tria, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Okay, you're all set.
All
right. Wait, go ahead.
Thank you again, Richard, for the kind introduction. It's really good to see you here. And good morning to everyone. It is my pleasure to be joining you all today as we discuss life after COVID-19, or what we at PLDT like to call Day Zero. When this ECQ started, we immediately implemented work-from-home initiatives and deployed the most applicable solutions for us to remain connected. And we're treating this period just as a temporary mode of work. We were so caught up in the shock of the moment that we missed to realize how pivotal a role this time would actually play in our lives. You know, just the other day, I was in a video call with a senior officer from one of the leading banks in the country, and we asked him what his plans are for Day Zero. He paused for a while and said, "Vic, that is actually a loaded question. We don't even know when Day Zero is." And it's true, we don't know when the situation will end. And then he followed it up by asking, how can PLDT help us prepare for Day Zero? And I knew I had to reassure him. I may not have all the answers, but what I can give and commit is the thing I know I have and can rely on, and that is consistent, secure connectivity. During this crisis COVID time, connectivity has served as our lifeline. And this is one thing that has allowed us to work together even while working apart. And the fact that we're able to thrive in this new work environment is telling of what our businesses will look like tomorrow. You know, in PLDT and Smart, we have seen the sudden surge of traffic shifting to residential areas, with millions of people working, transacting, and learning from home. At the same time, streaming movies and doing video conferencing for work, for family entertainment, and even regular church activities. In support of the overwhelming needs of today, we at the PLDT Group have likewise upgraded our network in an unprecedented manner. In the past 6 weeks, you won't believe this, the capacity of our domestic national network has expanded by 40%. We have given both our home and enterprise customers a free fiber speed boost at minimum 25 Mbps. We have also opened our international pipe so that you can continue to access your favorite social media contents and applications, and saw an increase of close to 70% in additional international bandwidth. Connectivity has been the lifeline to majority. It is our counter response to social distancing. And as this period allows us to gear up for the new normal, we will find ourselves having to rely on connectivity all the more. And this is especially true even for the most essential of industries. Within the public sector, local government units have leveraged on the power and potential of technology to reach more citizens and constituents. In partnership with the government, we have been deploying fiber, Wi-Fi, emergency hotline numbers to many hospitals and quarantine facilities, so our frontliners, the patients, and their families can stay connected in this difficult time. And we are so honored to have been trusted by the different sectors in their initiatives to welcome the new normal. So thank you for your trust. Thank you to the Department of Health, DOTR, DPWH, PNP, Armed Forces of the Philippines, among other agencies, as well as our LGU partners. Enabling your endeavors have given our works in PLDT so much purpose and continues to add value to our day-to-day activities. We're so grateful to take part in this act of collective bayanihan. I'd like to touch a bit on banking because I've been meeting with a lot of bank customers the past few weeks. Amid this pandemic, banks are more important than ever as the cornerstone of the economy. We thank you for keeping your operation as close to business as usual as possible. As our doctors and nurses in hospitals fight to keep us healthy on the medical frontline, banks, financial institutions are joining them on the economic frontline, moving to efficient remote working and providing the much needed banking services to customers. As online transacting is the new norm, or I would say the new mode, banks are continuously reinventing themselves. And connectivity, again, serves as the sole guiding light for us to achieve this. We have realized that even if a good majority of our workforce are from home, we can achieve more with secure connectivity. And this is true for other industries. Operations can still run smoothly and efficiently as long as the workforce is provided with ample connectivity. And lastly, this brings me to what I feel is a very important sector to discuss right now, education. While the future of all sectors remains uncertain, identifying the Day Zero framework for the academic sector is the most pertinent of all. We've been in discussion with DepEd and the Association of Universities and Colleges as we open the classes this coming September. We have to help bridge the 32 million students to more than 1 million teachers through education technologies, online teaching and e-learning, and even TV and radio broadcast learning. It is our desire that no student will be left behind as we work hand in hand with the education sector. Within the PLDT group, our chairman MVP often says that technology is an equalizer of opportunities. But if I may, I'd like to further build on this. Yes, technology is an equalizer of opportunities, and connectivity at this crucial time is the ultimate manifestation of its power. So while right now we don't know what the future looks like or when exactly Day Zero will come, we can find solace in the fact that we are already enabling this future by leveraging on the tool that will take us to the next phase of work. As we anticipate Day Zero, we need to be agile and make adjustments in the norms we've become accustomed to. Sure, we don't know what the future looks like, but right now, we're gifted with connectivity, the tool that will allow us to make the most of our time in this period of uncertainty. And realizing the gravity of that allows us the power to shape our businesses and industries in a most profound way. So yes, I know most of us, we are all shaken, but what cannot be shaken will remain and will continue to encourage us. And that is our hope in God and our collective commitment to stay connected and to serve and protect one another. Again, we thank the different sectors and industries for their trust during this period of volatility. It is truly an honor to be at your service during this time. The one thing we in PLDT can assure you of is our commitment to continue to enable our customers. Maraming salamat. God bless our country, and please stay safe.
Okay, thank you very much, Vic. Yeah, it seems our internet connectivity is the only thing that the media hasn't been screaming about lately. So keep up the good work, and we'll look forward to staying connected.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, and thank you very much, Vic. Yes. Okay, our next speaker is Norman Agatep. He's president of the Philippine Public Relations Society and many other activities. He's considered among the nation's premier integrated marketing leaders. So there'll be a lot of interesting things, Norm, going on because a lot of jobs have been at stake. All these product launches, the whole retail sector shut down. So let's hear what you have to say. Norman Agatep, everyone, president of the Philippine Society of Public Relations. Thanks, Norman.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that kind introduction, and good morning to everyone who's joined us from your respective homes. We've been asked to talk about life after COVID-19, what the new normal might be, and specifically about future social and economic trends and the role of technology in shaping society and business. But because my background is in marketing communication and corporate communication, allow me to tackle the subject matter slightly differently. I'd like to talk first about the consumer mindset shifts that have happened because of this pandemic and how these major shifts in the mindsets of consumers are going to impact business and therefore help define what the role of technology might be post-COVID-19. So allow me to share just a few of the mindsets that we are examining these days and how they've been changing. So the first new normal that we're seeing in terms of mindset is self-isolation. And so while it has been imposed on us to isolate ourselves because of the pandemic, we will see in later weeks that consumers will deliberately choose to isolate themselves and to distance themselves from the rest, right? And the challenge, therefore, for businesses, given that mindset of consumers, is how can we provide contactless services and delivery? Just last week, because I was running out of supplies at home, I had decided to order online for my groceries for the coming weeks. And while that was an effective thing, I list down everything that I wanted to purchase, and somebody was verifying my grocery list, even when she was at the grocery itself, and then confirming everything was all right. And then the groceries were delivered to my place. Thankfully, I was very thankful for that. But then I had to pay in cash, and I had not been able to withdraw from the ATM. So snags like these, as a result of the consumer's interest to isolate themselves from the rest or to distance themselves socially, ought to be fixed. Those companies, those businesses that have already transformed digitally, even before the pandemic, will be winners in the future. Those who have developed their e-commerce capabilities, and who are harnessing social media, for example, not only to engage them, but to encourage patronage of their products and brands, are the ones that are going to be winners. For technology, the challenges there are, do we have enough products, technological products that will take off all the kinks for maybe even for the small mom and pop shops there who would like to get online? Are we harnessing fintech enough so that we have enough products that will help all of these snags as a result of the mindset of consumers to isolate themselves? The second new normal that we're looking at or investigating is and it's related to the first, by the way, of isolation, is the stay-at-home mindset, right? We will all be homebodies, and we will discourage ourselves from spending Friday nights painting the town red, and instead doing a lot of these things at home. So entertainment, dining, sports, play, all of these, many of these things will be done at home. And the challenge will be for brands to recreate the brand experience, no longer outside where consumers used to experience these products and brand, but to recreate that experience at home. We see now brands, for example, quick service restaurants are fast on this, trying to replicate, therefore, the favorite dishes in the quick service restaurants and allowing consumers to be able to do that at home and making available, for example, frozen products like chicken nuggets and chicken thighs, for example, and allowing consumers to be able to buy the frozen products and to replicate the brand experience at home. So again, the challenge for technology is how will technology help empower this new mindset where people will be wanting to experience the brands at home. And for the companies of these brands, how do we decipher when people will experience the brand outside after the ECQ, and when will they want to experience the brands in the house? Defining those things will be very crucial for brands in the future. Our third new normal mindset, and again, it's related to the first two of staying at home and isolation, is the remote work mindset. It will be a default for many. In fact, those who will be winners in the coming weeks are those who've already figured out how to remove, once again, the kinks of working remotely or from home. It might be a hard and expensive exercise to deny remote work as an option these days, because we've all realized that it can be done to a great degree. So are businesses fully equipped already? And for technology, how do we improve the remote work experience? It will be a matter of companies and technology to listen to how people are describing their work from home experiences and to see how technology can work to better or improve this experience. People are talking about now the difficulty of data security, even through some platforms that allow us to talk online with each other. We're afraid of the security and the privacy issues that are aligned with that activity. So again, so far we have self-isolation, stay at home, remote work, mindset. And the last new normal that I'd like to discuss is a proactive health mindset. Because of the pandemic and even the anxiety that we receive as a result of the situation, consumers will want to prioritize self-care, both physically and mentally. And the winners are those in the industries of vitamins and supplements, healthcare, preventive healthcare, more so, insurance and the like. And the challenge for brands is how do we contribute to discussion of self-care? Will sports apparels, for example, want to create ways, for example, mobile apps to encourage people at homes to exercise, that sort of stuff. How do brands contribute to the idea of self-care? And for technology, how will tech help in dispensing healthcare remotely? Apart from mobile apps, we'll be now talking about telemedicine, where doctors can be consulted online by their patients rather than patients moving physically to the clinics of their doctors. So again, just to summarize, I feel very strongly that the impact on business and on technology by the pandemic will be a matter of understanding what the shifting mindsets of consumers will be. I've tackled 4. Self-isolation. People will choose to distance themselves. So how does business and tech deliver contactless services? Number 2, a stay-at-home mentality. We will be homebodies. We will prefer to stay at home more often. And how, therefore, can brands and technology recreate brand experiences at home? Number 3, remote work will be a default. And because of that, we now ask ourselves, how can companies and technology create a more frictionless work-from-home experience? And finally, proactive health. People will prioritize physical and mental health, and therefore, how do brands, companies, and technology engage with consumers and join in this conversation about health? That's all I had. There are many other consumer mindsets that people are looking into, like localization, hyper-localization rather than globalization, a stronger community spirit after COVID-19, and so on. But these are felt are the ones that have a greater impact, a stronger impact on business, brands, companies, and will help define the role of technology moving forward. I hope you've learned, picked up some insights that are useful for you. And once again, I thank you all for this opportunity to sharing these notes. Richard?
Very good. Thank you. That's so true, Norman. How many leaders from different industries have told me about the the move to the home, where the home is becoming central for both entertainment, consumption, and work. So it's, and I know Victria. Yes, Victria is going through this, delivering thousands of connector devices to people's homes so they can work and so forth. So, okay, well done. Okay, thank you very much, Norman. That's interesting. And I think a valid big trend for the future. Our next speaker is Nina Aguas, the high-profile leader from the financial sector. She is the executive chairman of Insular Life, the largest Filipino-owned life insurance company, and she has thousands of agents and employees across the country, and all in a very face-to-face business. My dear, how are you continuing to sell and service your many policy holders across the country? Please welcome Nina Aguas, executive chairman of Insular Life. Thanks, Nina.
Hello, Richard. Good morning. Thank you for that introduction. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Thank you for joining us. Let me just say this. Many business leaders and economists say this big circuit breaker will bring long-lasting and profound effects with structural changes to the global economy, markets, industries, in the way we work and the way we live. The pandemic has three layers: public health crisis, economic, and humanitarian, all interdependent and connected. As The Economist writes, the trade-off between saving lives and saving livelihoods is excruciating. Our 2020 business plans are unrealistic now, given the compression of the overall economic activity. The exact outcome would be continuous work in progress as we slowly begin to appreciate the still unknowable consequences of COVID. Instead of trying to predict the future, we study the areas of opportunities and assess the probabilities of them happening, and then identify the management actions that we could take in each instance. We hope to make well-considered and informed decisions, including any regulatory interests as we go forward. It will be a day-by-day, week-by-week way of doing business for a while. We pay, and being conservative here. That said, and as we begin to understand the adjusted sentiments and preferences of our unique clients, we pay attention to the design of our respective new normal. What is the new normal? Who is the engineer? COVID designed it, and it kept much of the future unknown. There's so many X's and Y's in its algebraic equation. As an organization, we work on our collective response to the evolving business climate, implement resource conservation measures, and where vulnerable, prioritize risk mitigation. Identify the possible impact of the various functions within your organization and attempt to find end-to-end and holistic answers. Products, design, sales, distribution, business planning, operations, supply chains for manufacturing, for example. The road to recovery will be slow, and we need to work triple hard to make for time and business loss. But realistically, trying to deliver 12 months results in a very much shortened year, I say it's a 6-month year, is a huge ask and stretch for any business. One thing we can say with certainty, the reduced business activity is hurting our bottom lines. CEOs and business leaders must remain committed to doing what is right for all its stakeholders and take steps. First, to look out for their customers and clients, employees, channel partners, agents, and what will keep their families and communities safe. Second, that the stakeholders themselves can withstand the economic stresses of their livelihoods and businesses. Now more than ever, strong, decisive, experienced leadership is required. We are asked to take hold of our bearings, lead with a renewed sense of purpose. As captains, we are asked to be the calm and steady hand that steers the ship to port in the midst of a turbulent ocean of high waves and violent winds. What is the new normal? Now every man is an island. I never thought I would see the day when the concept and the idea that no man is an island is made false. I always said life is a team sport. Likewise, I used to say education is one great equalizer, and we're heavily invested in it through our Insular Foundation. It still is, but no longer, as COVID has become the greatest of equalizers. This is beyond wealth, class, politics, borders, policy, government, scholar, race, or religion. Humankind has been brought to its knees by a tiny, vicious, and invisible virus that made everyone fearful and helpless. None of us, except perhaps a few, could have imagined disruption on such global scale as like the one we are in today. Indeed, it is a black swan event in every sense. As we plan to return to work, physical and social distancing is a new normal, as are COVID testing. Until vaccine, cure, and our immune systems can fight COVID, this will be our new way of living. Our daily lives will have seriously reduced human interaction. We will soon be on GCQ. Some release is coming, but social norms will need to be toned down. Technology is playing a crucial role in enabling connectivity as we are physically distance ourselves and do our part in containing the outbreak. We'll be able to manage well and provide an interruptive service if we have invested enough in technology and digital transformation. Even then, the lockdowns magnified the need to accelerate even more the building of a robust IT infrastructure, the affordability of high-speed internet services, and customer adoption. This has become as critical as water and power. To close on a higher note, COVID is unifying all of us in many ways. We now have a shared global fight. We celebrated our birthdays, our anniversaries, new life, and yes, death, in the most simple but surely heartfelt and prayerful ways. Individually, the lockdowns opened for each and every one of us newfound strength in coping, resiliency, spirituality, compassion, new ways of loving and showing someone how and how much you love. We work from home with our natural unmade faces, unshaven for men only, uncoiffed and uncolored hairs, and see once again how perfect and truly beautiful God's original designs were. Yes, what is life after COVID-19? To me, it will be a long while before there is an after. We were given a wild card. How to live with COVID is the question. Hopefully, wisely, sensibly, and humanely. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much, Nina. Very much a pleasure to have you. It looks like you're a lot of books behind the way. Okay, our next, and always a smile, lovely. Okay, our next speaker is you've seen him on TV a lot and in the news, Epimako Densing. We've had him before and he's just the nicest guy. He's Undersecretary for Operations of DILG, Department of the Interior. And if you don't know, this is a huge organization. And I know just before the event we were talking about, he has something like 1,400 city mayors of cities and towns and 44,000 barangay captains across the country. And he tries to tell them what to do. And I'm sure many times they try to tell you what to do, but so I'm sure it's not easy. And especially you've got the president in one ear and then you're trying to look after all of these people in the other. So really, really nice to have Undersecretary Densing with us today for a fascinating story of how he's managing this crisis and how he's going to bring us all back to normal. Please welcome Epimako Densing of DILG. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Well, if there's something true at this point, I'm not nice to the local chief executives, especially if they're not aligned or they're not aligning their guidelines with that of the national government. Well, what is important right now is to talk about this new normal And it's not the new normal after COVID, because the normal after COVID-19 is supposed to be our old normal, or the normal. But right now we're experiencing a new normal under a COVID-19 environment. This is a global pandemic. It's a problem that all countries are experiencing, including ours. And primarily, we're trying to address this because this is an enemy or a problem which we cannot see. And as of today, for everybody's information, it's a problem that has no solution yet. The only solution for COVID-19 is really to discover the drug that can abrogate the sickness amongst us. As of today, as of yesterday, there are around 8,212 was confirmed COVID-19 afflicted, and close to 558 deaths. No? I think we are on the verge of flattening, the so-called flattening the curve, primarily because the growth of our infections has grown down in terms of ratio. I think prior to the lockdown, the ratio of infection for every one person infected, there are at least 3 to 4 which is also infected by this person. Right now, we're now down to one infection who infects at least 2 more Filipinos. So we're trying to keep the curve flattened, and if we're going to be successful, then we might be going out of this so-called enhanced community quarantine, or in a more acceptable term, which is a lockdown. Then the new normal is actually something that we do while we are still under a COVID environment. For instance, this forum that we're doing is actually a new normal. We don't usually do a forum through live streaming, a webinar. We shake hands using our hands, but right now the new normal is shaking our hands by tapping our feet or our shoes, or tapping our elbows. In the beginning, it was quite funny, but right now it's just really normal. So no more laughter when we shake hands using our elbows. So this is the things that are happening right now. Again, it was mentioned a while ago that isolation may be a new normal right now. As of today, it's important for the public to know that there's an improvement of the crime situation in the whole country. The crime situation vis-a-vis the 8 focus crimes that we talk about, homicide, robbery, theft, is down 61%. And theft alone is down by 68%. So it's abnormal, but it's normal right now in this kind of an environment. However, on the discipline side, there seems to be a growing number of people not following the rules of the enhanced community quarantine. As of yesterday, we have our Philippine National Police has already accosted close to 150,000 people nationwide, violating the enhanced community quarantine. But again, more importantly, we should focus on what is happening or what will happen to our country given this environment. The impact is really both in the social side, the political side, and the economic side. No? On the social side, we all know that there's a problem right now because people do not have money to buy goods and services or something that they pay on a regular basis. I was mentioning prior to the lockdown that our government should focus its resources to ensure that people should be given money, especially those who will be losing their jobs and their earnings because they will have to stay at home. And government did do that more than what was expected. It was focusing only on Luzon, but the government even focused on giving financial assistance all over the country. 18 million families all over the country given assistance. And we're still having trouble right now because only close to 50% have been given that financial assistance, particularly or primarily because of problems with the structure. As mentioned a while ago, we've been talking to more than 1,700 local chief executives, and we're talking about 1,700 different kinds of thinking. And we really have to adjust to them. And to some extent, some who have not aligned to the policies of the national government have been given show cause orders, which I had to sign. Well, eventually they had to give way for us not to pursue a case against them in the office of the ombudsman or office of the president. So it's an issue right now of making sure that society is intact, despite the fact that they have no earnings or they have no jobs. And up to as of last Tuesday, government has already spent, shelled out close to 350 billion in our funds, or that's close to 7 billion US dollars, primarily to address this COVID issue and to make sure that people will stay at home. The only way for people to stay at home is really to give them that money, and they have that money to be able to pay for their daily needs until the lifting of the enhanced community quarantine. By tomorrow, certain geographical areas or political units will now be lifted of their enhanced community quarantine and will be lightened to what we call the general community quarantine. And some areas will just have a normal community quarantine. But despite the fact that the lifting will be made starting tomorrow, there will still be areas, specifically in Region 3, Region 4A, the National Capital Region, and certain provinces such as Cebu, Iloilo, Pangasinan, Benguet, Davao del Norte, and Davao City, who will continue with their enhanced community quarantine because the number or the percentage of infection there is still doubling, practical doubling. So there's an extension of 15 days up to May 15. But despite the fact that there will be lightening up of the community quarantine in the other areas nationwide, again, the new normal will be there. Work will continue, but it will not be in full capacity. Of course, people, as mentioned already before, people whose age is between 0 to 20 will not be going out, not because they will get sick, but primarily because they're so strong and asymptomatic that they become carriers of this infection. For those who are 60 and above, you are still encouraged to stay at home, but for those who are still strong enough to work, you will still be allowed to work. But more importantly, on the economic side, please expect that in the next few months, we'll see a recession. I think by the second or third quarter, NEDA, or the National Economic Development Authority, sees a recession of our country. And there will be a slowdown in a lot of economic activities. People will still stay at home. There will be less spending. Consumption is the major factor in the growth of our gross domestic product. We will not see any major spending or consumption from our consumers. It will only be government which will be doing a lot of spending. So our economy will now be carried by how our government will do its spending, and we'll have to do so to support our government. If there's anything that I've discovered in this pandemic, or what this problem that we're experiencing right now, a problem which has no solution, and we're only trying to contain the disease to spread amongst the people, is that government has been resilient. The focus has been there. And mind you, I sit in the interagency task force on the emerging infectious diseases. We meet 3 times a week, sometimes 4. And mind you, despite the senior ages of our cabinet secretaries, we meet at a minimum of 8 hours a day straight to a maximum of 11 hours. In fact, last night we finished at around 11 in the evening, to which we started at 10:30 in the morning. So that's close to 12 hours of meeting, discussing evolving policies that government has to impose. And anytime soon, we will be issuing a new omnibus guidelines for everybody to follow, private citizens and government agencies, including the private sector, so that, again, the ultimate objective is simply to contain a problem that has no solution yet. And we pray that anytime soon, in the next few months, or hopefully less than a year, a vaccine can be developed, and only a vaccine that can be developed and spread out all over the world, in our country as well, can only make this pandemic or this problem end. And we can go back to our old normal, as we say. So for everybody, my message is that continue to stay at home, continue to stay healthy, make yourself strong enough and disciplined enough not to go out, because at the end of the day, it's either you're a carrier of the disease, spreading it out, or you might be a victim of this disease. And I thank everybody, both in the private and the public sector, for being resilient in this crisis that we're experiencing right now.
Okay, thank you very much. That is very interesting and very well delivered, I must say, Undersecretary. That's twice now you've spoken very well. And I had no idea you guys were doing so much. Just you don't realize it, all the things that have to be done in the background. So thank you very much. A very, very impressive story. $7 billion. That's amazing. Because one of the big concerns I know everyone has is the people who need to work on a day-to-day basis to feed their families. I mean, we get a lot of calls for support and so forth. So I'm pleased to see the government is doing so much. So I could go on, but thank you very much, Undersecretary Densing. Okay, our next speaker is Tonacito Umali, the Undersecretary for the Department of Education. And he is a key guy there. And if you don't know, he has 800,000 teachers across Philippines and 30 million students. So this is something that impacts everybody. And so we're really, really pleased to have Tonacito Umali, who's dressed very immaculately. I must say, if I'd have known he was going to wear a tie, I would have worn a tie today also. So please welcome Tonacito Umali, Undersecretary of Department of Education.
Hi,
Please go ahead.
Richard. Hi, Sarah. Good morning to, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I hope you can hear me, right? And good morning, Sir Vic, Sir Norman, Ma'am Ninya, Sir Den Singh, and to all of the people behind Asia CEO and our Facebook online viewers. Good morning to all of you. It's indeed a privilege to join you today as we discuss, in my case, what DepEd may be doing under the new normal in light of what's going on right now under the COVID pandemic. I believe that if we have a framework on how we prioritize things, talking about what is most urgent, most important, being on top of our list, just like what Sir Vic of PLDT, resource person, mentioned a while ago, education, I think, should be on top of our list. We should accept by this time that even if the current ECQ, GCQ, enhanced community quarantine, general community quarantine is lifted, the way we are teaching or delivering our modules, the way our students are learning the same should be different under the new normal. And that's where the challenge is, Richard, because the present formal basic education system is designed to be delivered as a general rule face-to-face. Though I must say that currently we have what you call the alternative delivery mode, the alternative learning system of education. Still, the default mode is face-to-face. And as I said, the challenge, therefore, is coming up and implementing a comprehensive policy on flexible learning options with emphasis on distant learning education. In the midst of what's all happening, Richard, we in the Department of Education is guided by our Ma'am Leonor Liling Magtolis Briones' pronouncement that education must continue. Under Article 14, Section 1 of the Constitution, if you may, to put some constitutional framework on how important education is, it provides there that the state shall protect and promote the right of every Filipino citizen to quality education at all levels, and that the state shall take appropriate steps to make such quality education accessible to all. With this kind of framework and other laws related to education, Richard, our dear online viewers and listeners, the Department of Education embarked on what you call, prior to COVID-19 and of course up to now, what you call Sulong Edukalidad, which is based on 4 pillars. K-12 curriculum review, improving the learning environment, ensuring that we have a learning environment or an environment that is not only conducive to teaching but also to learning. Teaching, upskilling and reskilling, equipping our teachers to be very efficient and effective in delivering our modules. And more importantly, the 4th pillar, as it is happening right now, partnership engagement. And we are very happy that this is happening right now. We now have a platform, a means to discuss substantially with you various issues and concerns that we are faced with, spearheaded by our private partner, Asia CEO. Now, in the Department of Education, in the context of my portfolio as the Undersecretary for Partnership, we have launched, or we are about to launch, subject to the official declaration of our Secretary Ling Briones, the new Brigada Escuela framework. Brigada Escuela is the platform, if you may, of DepEd that really crystallize the concept of DepEd public and private partnership. The traditional concept of Brigada Escuela, where 2 or 3 weeks prior to school opening, the whole community will be together, cleaning our schools, doing some minor painting or minor repairs in our classrooms. Under the new normal will undoubtedly be changed. Right now, the focus of our Brigada Escuela for the months of May, June, and July, again, subject to a declaration of our Secretary Leonor Briones, is engagement of partners, focus on, for example, disinfection of our schools, focus on our schools particularly that were used as quarantine areas for PUMs and PUI, persons under monitoring, persons under investigation for COVID-19, mobilization of essential items that we think are needed, thermal scanners, more sanitizers, alcohols, face masks, and protective equipment to protect our teachers and our learners, engagement of partners for the successful conduct in the few months of psychosocial first aid, psychosocial debriefing activities, engagement of PTA, especially under the new normal. We always keep on talking about distant education, where children will now be learning at home. So parents should be oriented on their critical role on how to facilitate learning, on how to make sure that their children are not simply hooked to Facebook, to online, to social media, and doing their PlayStation or what, that they will make sure that learning is still happening. We also talk about, under the Brigada Escuela framework, putting emphasis on gulayan sa paaralan and tahanan and other school-based initiatives. But allow me, Richard, to dwell a little more on distant education. This is what is really important. And I think that's what was mentioned by Sir Vic when he said the importance of education, importance of online teaching, and in relation to the mandate of of our dear PLDT partner. The other day, we met the people from Smart PLDT Gabay Guro, and we talk about some models on how to do teaching or learning offline by way of activity sheets. We talk about the Bernidos couple model of learning and teaching. We talk about the Gabay Guro platform, where they will upload. Gabay Guro is with the Smart PLDT, Richard. And we talk about how we may upload materials there so that that will be accessed easily by our teachers and learners as they do their learning at home. But given all this, the common conception of distant learning, they usually equate this with internet-based education, which should not be necessarily the case, especially that statistics show that only 48% of our schools are connected to the internet. Of course, we intend to go for 100% in the next months or years to come. Statistics show, though, this is a good news, that 67% of our Filipino households have access to smartphones, but only 20%, according to studies, have access at home to internet. But, and I need to validate this, each household has access to radio. Given all this basic statistics, the concept now of distant education undoubtedly should be expanded, because when we talk about distant education in relation to internet learning, we talk about first those which have connectivity and those which do not have connectivity. For those who have internet connectivity, we should talk about those learners or teachers who have computers, smartphones, or gadgets, and those who do not have these gadgets. For those who have these gadgets and those who have internet connectivity, then DepEd in the succeeding months, in the context of engaging our partners, preparing our schools for the first day of opening, we should vigorously train our teachers how to use technology, how learners will use these various platforms, and against parents, how they may serve as effective facilitators of learning. For those who have internet connectivity, but they don't have any gadgets to facilitate learning, then we should talk about, in the context of partnership, trying to source materials for them to have this gadget so that distant learning should take place. For those who do not have internet connectivity but have computers or gadgets, we should be talking about, as we are talking about, how to upload this application, these programs, the activity sheets, so that this may be accessed offline by our teachers and our learners. And now, how about those who do not have connectivity, who do not have gadgets? How will learning still take place? Your DepEd, under our curriculum and instruction strand, are coming up with clear guidelines and plans how learning will still continue by way of activity sheets. And if physical classes can be conducted already, we're talking about the what we have right now, the modified in-school, out-school approach, because it's very important that we still maintain social distancing in our classrooms, and that will only happen if we lower the number of students in each classroom from the current 40 to 50 to 15 to 20. So we are now talking about maybe learning happening by shifts or by batches. Students, for example, in classroom 1 with 50 students traditionally will now have Mondays, for example, students 1 to 20 or 25 going to school. Students 26 to 50 staying at home, doing distant learning. By Tuesday, it will now be the turn of students 26 to 50. This time, students 1 to 25 will stay at home doing their activity sheets. And by Wednesday, maybe, they will now report for classes, and the teachers will now make sure that they did their homework. So we're not saying that this is the model that we are about to do or to implement, but serious discussion on how to make sure that social distancing will happen in light of the new normal will be implemented and will be observed. And given all this, if you may, just like what I said, if radio is available in almost all of our household, then radio-based instruction should be maximized. Yesterday, we talked to some partners, and we talked about how we could do radio-based learning. Then we talk about, obviously, if we engage a radio, they may not allow us to air for free for 5 hours or 4 hours. So at least one radio station, national or local, will give us 1 hour of free airtime. So on a Monday, we may ask our learners to tune into radio station 1 from 8 to 9, subject English. And then radio station 2 from 9 to 10 a.m., subject science. And then 10 to 11, radio station 3, subject math. So something like that, innovation like that, we, your DepEd, are definitely considering. And I would like to really emphasize that our Secretary Briones is very, very emphatic about this. And that's why we have developed, or in the process of developing, and we are about to launch and finalize what you call the Learning Continuity Plan. Maybe generally, I just would like to say that we are also focusing on homeschooling. I think, our online viewers or listeners will be very interested. Ma'am Niling Briones given clear guidelines to be issued, and expect guidelines as our curriculum and instruction team have drafted the same on how to conduct in light of the new normal. So we are not only talking about homeschooling now for schools with permit to offer public and private schools, but also independent homeschool learning. In the end, to summarize, we just would like to tell and assure everybody here, And thank you, Asia CEO. This is a very effective platform. We thank you. We thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. But we would like to assure you that under the leadership of our Secretary Leonor Briones, we are aware of the problems, issues, and concerns and challenges and education that we are confronted with. You could be assured that under our leadership, that under the leadership of our Ma'am Liling Briones, that we are in the process of formulating the solutions, and that in the process of formulating these solutions, you could likewise be assured that we will consult you, we will involve you, we will collaborate with you, because under this administration of Secretary Briones, partnership is very important. And that's the fourth pillar of Sulong Edukalidad, engagement of partners. At dahil po dyan, dahil alam po namin din na ang kahalagahan po ng ating mga partners, dahil alam na alam po namin na yung mga bagay po namin na akala po ay hindi po namin kayang gawin, akala po namin ay hindi po namin kayang abutin, akala po namin ay imposible. Ngayon po ay kayang-kaya po namin gawin, kayang-kaya po namin abutin. Posibleng-posible dahil po sa aming tamang kamalayan patungkol po sa tinatawag na partnership. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Muli, good morning to all of you. God bless us all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Undersecretary. That is very interesting. Yes. I mean, young people want to use these devices and so forth. You see how addicted they are. It seems only natural to put education on there as well. So I had no idea you guys were moving ahead that far. So very good. So we're going to have some questions. Please post your questions, but first just watch this video and we'll be right back.
Key in your questions, comments, and suggestions via the chat.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I hope everybody's feeling good. I sure am. So what so many of us said is that this the home focus with technology-enabled tools, this seems to be the future. But maybe if I could ask one general question to everybody first, but what have you learned about your organization and yourself during this crisis? Who'd like to start off?
Let me take a crack at it, Richard.
Good.
What I've observed during the pandemic, seeing brands and how they've performed during this crisis, it's very easy to see that those companies and those brands that have demonstrated compassion, that have forgotten their business for a while and thought of the public first, remembered even beyond this pandemic. People would like to patronize those brands that have shown that they are compassionate and that they're thinking of others in a time of crisis.
Okay, that's good. What, Vic, are you next?
Yes. You know what? I have learned the true meaning of humility in service. We've had a few employees on lockdown across different facilities to ensure our network continues to run. And they've been away from their families for almost 2 months now, yet they have embraced the call to serve through and through. And it has been so humbling for me to see how they have taken on this heroic task with such a humility and optimism unlike any other. And if I may continue, similarly, to ensure that we are able to provide our customers with the means to stay connected, we have frontliners who continue to deliver our connectivity solutions to customers across the nation. On top of practicing social distancing, of course, and health protocols with utmost diligence, they have been, if I may use this word, they have been adamant in fulfilling the needs of our customers, and that has been truly inspiring for us. And lastly, the rest of the organization is on work from home mode. At first, we were so scared to transition into this new normal, thinking it would make us less efficient. But to our surprise, our people are more productive, and they're able to accomplish more and have learned to be resourceful, making the most of what we have and where we are. If anything, this crisis has allowed me to see the resilience of our organization, all of which would not be possible without our greatest resource, our workforce. I'd like to thank here PLDT, SMART, and EPLDT team. Maraming salamat sa inyo.
Okay, that's interesting. You hear that more and more about how productive people are and how it's kind of a surprise that they're so productive at home. Nina Aguas, how about you?
Yes, certainly Insular Life was very prepared for an event such as this. We're highly digitalized and we have a very strong IT infrastructure. We continue to service our customers with our automated underwriting system, customer portals, and our agency portals. So business as usual, although of course, like this is more digital than anything. And so the whole company went on overdrive first to take care of our communities, take care of our people, take care of our agency force, and providing them with financial assistance. We're giving full pay, full benefits during all this time. And then we went on overdrive, as I said, serving our communities by providing PPEs to 8 hospitals and financial assistance to them as well, and setting up kitchens for alternative housing provided to the frontliners. And best of all, we provided free life insurance coverage to many of the frontliners, as well as including doctors, nurses, messengers of hospitals. And we are wanting to expand that and extend some more coverage to the others, like the armed forces, for example, or the police, or even those that are in the front line of our supermarkets. It's been very, very busy, but more on the Insular Life Foundation than the business itself. But you take care of your people, you take care of your agency force, and business will come naturally.
Yeah.
Interesting. Undersecretary Densing?
Yeah, Richard, if there's anything that I've discovered is how resilient our government is. And at the end of the day, it's a matter of perspective. And as I've always said in the past, times like this is, to some extent, we should not consider a disaster, but a time for us to evaluate and assess ourselves, giving us an opportunity to assess who we are as a person and as a people, the Filipino nation. In other words, what we're saying is people have started to make sacrifices. In the beginning, not everybody knew, but there was a push and pull inside the cabinet because some of the cabinet economic managers wanted to push with the economic activities. The others are just focusing on saving lives. So it was a question of continue to grow our economy or to save our lives with this pandemic. And at the end of the day, they had one kind of perspective. Saving lives is more important than economic growth at this point in time. That's why for our CEOs who are present this morning, and this is the same appeal that I made months ago, as early as March. I was appealing to them. They may have delayed the payment of utilities by the consumer, especially the poor. Delay in the payment of water, electricity, telecommunications. But at the end of the period, they still have to pay for it, double or triple, because it's now accumulated. May I ask an appeal to our CEOs, to members of the boards of the various multi-billion utilities corporations. You've earned your millions, your billions, or even trillions for the past decade or so. Maybe it's time for you to give a little something to our people. Why not give a 50% discount by the time we lift our lockdown? Because again, at the end of the day, if we still continue to ask them to pay, it's just an accumulated payment over 2 or 3 months. But if you give them a discount, you give them something that everybody will be happy and they will be appreciative. Meralco has over 300 billion in revenues in 2019, income of 25 billion. Why not give it some half of it in favor of the people? Our power generating companies may also want to give a discount to the distributor. The whole supply process can do that, if only for us to become one in our approach in making sure that we survive this crisis. Again, I'd like to repeat, we are in a situation where the problem that we're experiencing right now has no solution. We are only containing it. And if we continue to have that social and economic problem that our poor people will experience in the next few months, we'll have more problems. So it's an appeal. And that's what we have learned and what we should learn and what we should do to have a common perspective on how to help our country and its people.
Very good and very passionate, Undersecretary. Yes, and that is very good. The only concern I have is we're getting a lot of calls from some of our supplier organizations. A lot of the smaller companies are in a crisis situation, and many will fold, it seems. And so just have to balance between who can afford it and who not. But Undersecretary Umali, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think what is important right now is that we have this feeling of normalcy and under the new normal. But when I say feeling of normalcy, we need to do things subject to the restrictions that we are in right now, and do the same things that we're doing before. So, for example, if we are waking up 5 o'clock to start the day, and for you to work, then wake up at 5 o'clock and start your work day. But instead of going to work, go to your corner, to your work table, and start working. Same thing with our students, and that's very important for our people, the Filipino people, that there should be we should be doing things beyond watching television, watching news, trying to keep track of the number of positive COVID-19 patients we have right now compared to other countries. There should be more to that. With respect to the Department of Education, believe me, Richard, we at the department, under the leadership of our secretary, we're doing a lot more than before, because it's very easy now to contact each other. Meetings are being done successively via video conference. But for those individuals, for example, employed in the private sector, who are not doing a lot, if you're not literally doing work from home, do some YouTube or internet learning. Access special programs that will equip you more as an employer in your office once the actual face-to-face or even under the new normal of working take place. And Richard, I would like to share with you quickly, there was a time after Typhoon Haiyan where some partners, or Yolanda, gave away lipsticks to our teachers in Region 8. And that was very symbolic. It is not about them, beautifying, trying to look beautiful or what, but it's all about them having this sense of normalcy, that it is okay again to be like what you are before, because life must continue. And in the context of that, education must still continue. Thank you, Richard.
That's a very good point, and I've been counseling others on YouTube training. There's beautiful, amazingly good training programs online that everybody can take advantage of. Okay, maybe if I could direct a question to Vic Tria, because I know he's in touch with a broad range of companies across the country and so forth. But Vic, have you heard of layoffs and financial problems at companies? How are your clients doing? Are they asking you for big discounts and things? How is it out there?
Well, as mentioned earlier, when I asked one client what his plans for day zero, what his plans for day zero were, he called it a loaded question. And I don't think I can simply quantify the magnitude this pandemic has had on the PLDT group or our clients. Every day we're faced with new challenges that continue to transform how we conduct business. It definitely hasn't been easy. Its consequences have economic, financial, business, and health implications. And I don't want to discount the gravity of this period. But at the same time, again, quoting our chairman MVP in his message to us last Easter, he said that COVID will change the way we live and work, but we must neither be daunted nor reduced by it. The only way out of this crisis is to get through it. As we plan for tomorrow, we need to see what changes within our organization will create a positive impact tomorrow. So we are really keen on doing a consultancy practice with our customers right now. I know they're all challenged, we're all challenged, but we want to share best practices in other countries. And these best practices are actually changing daily across individual business and whole industries. But the current mode of work allows us the flexibility to craft a system suited to our organizational needs. We just need to be able to identify which changes will best benefit our customers and employees. Again, we cannot qualify day zero, but as long as we try to understand what practices are working for us, we will be able to slowly design the new mode of work for our organizations, and we'll be able to recover from this. And we at PLDT Enterprise will be here every step of the way.
Okay, very good. All right. Could I ask? Sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay. Could I ask then for Nina Aguas? Is there anything really different that you see in your organ? Or, well, Norman and Nina, what is going to be the impact on many of the industries that you work with, retail, marketing, and so forth? And for Nina, I mean, is this going to be an ongoing change, you think, or is it going to be all completely back to normal, say 3 or 4 months from now?
No, I don't think so. I think we've seen the benefits of working from home and offshoring, for example, and we may have to continue with that because we don't know until we have a definite cure for this virus. At the same time, I think our people are also like adjusting and wanting more quality time for themselves. And this last 2 months have given them a taste of that. Having said that, I think we will be more on a valley curve recovery, not really a V. And it's slow and it will pick up in a while, but not soon, because depending on the sentiments and the disposition of many of our clients, no? And the impact is just very broad-based and very deep. So some small businesses, for example, will not be able to get back. We're working with women entrepreneurs, and we're seeing that they're short of capital. And as you know, in times like this, credit becomes very expensive. Yes. So it's very critical that we're able to help them restore that confidence to set up their businesses again and guide them through and see what we can. Because we have a Shiro's movement, and we're helping the women out there who've been marginalized because of COVID more so today.
Yeah, it's a lot of tragedies we hear too. Norman, anything to add?
Yes, you were asking about what happens to retail marketing, especially since a lot of retail marketing happens face-to-face. I think in the future, face-to-face has to be reevaluated and redefined in a way that you need to communicate. If you are in marketing communication, communicate where your market is. In public relations, communicate or relate to wherever your public is. If they are at home, the challenges will be how do you reach them while they are at home? How do we deliver the brand experience while they are at home? So we have to rethink again what face-to-face really means. And in the future, again, that means using technology to be able to bring your product, your brand experience to wherever your market or your publics are.
Okay, very good. And also, next, could I ask Undersecretary Densing, and just make sure your phone or your mic is unmuted, but could you give us deadlines and the steps and the timelines for when or how you're going to phase back to normal? Are there certain industries, or what are the industries that are going to be able to normalize first and what are going to take longer? Do you have that kind of information? I know it's very complex.
Yeah.
But what can you tell us?
Well, we've already identified certain industries which can already start doing business again, but we're not talking about full capacity. So, for instance, the BPOs, the export-oriented industries, certain categories that will not involve leisure activities. So the industry that will really get hit, at least in the next few months, will be those in the leisure industry, and specifically tourism. Tourism will be the most hit sector, and we're not talking about reviving the sector at least for a minimum of 3 months, because traveling will really be restricted, primarily because anybody could be a carrier of the disease. So the most badly hit industry for the next 3 to 4 months will really be tourism. It can go as far as December. But however, all other industries may continue as long as these are basic. Food manufacturing will be in full force. Agriculture, starting May 1, in those areas which were not declared as a lockdown or enhanced community quarantine, will now be allowed to operate 100%, the agricultural and food industries. Again, some industries in the services will be allowed to operate on a skeletal force basis, or at least a minimum of 50% capacity. Hopefully, the evaluation will be every 2 weeks. We already have a data analytics team in the interagency task force. And more importantly, all rules will now be aligned, primarily because the declaration of any community quarantine or lifting of it will now be under the discretion of the interagency task force. Therefore, all rules will now be aligned. Hopefully, we'll have another evaluation before May 15, and we'll see if we can already lift the enhanced community quarantine in Metro Manila and other regions. The evaluation period is always every 2 weeks. And for the center of gravity is really the National Capital Region. Hopefully, changes will come, and public transport in some areas will now return, but again, subject to the new normal under a COVID-19 situation. Everybody has to be a meter away from each other. In religious gatherings, at least 2 meters away. And it's now an imperative that anybody who goes out of the house must wear a face mask.
I see. Okay, very good. That's very interesting. And maybe to finish off the session, could we ask Undersecretary Umali, do you have any timelines and things that you can share, how things are going to go in the next couple of months, sir?
Well, our Secretary Liling Briones will make some important announcements, if not today, in the next couple of days, on school opening. Some important announcement that will not only affect our public but also our private schools. Talking about private schools, we would like to assure our partners under the private schools education system, if you may, that we recognize your importance as mandated by our Constitution. We value your role to complement, to supplement what we're doing under the public education system. And our Secretary Briones, in fact, has mentioned and emphasized that there are some of your proposals that she is working on vigorously with the IATF. And we have updated you on these proposals. And thinking that August will be the first day of school for our public school system, may be different with the private schools. We expect to do the necessary preparations. Brigada Escuela under the new framework, months of May, June, and July, Richard, we will do what we need to do. Training our teachers, training our learners, and also training our parents, orienting them, our parents, what they need to do, the roles that they need to play in the context of our overall learning continuity plan. Again, as our Secretary Brian has always mentioned, education will still continue. Thank you very much, Richard. God bless.
Thank you too, Undersecretary Umali. Maybe one last question that someone posted, a very good question. This is a hard question for everyone to answer, but if there are people at home and they are hungry or even starving and they don't feel that they can go out and so forth, what can they do? What do you suggest? Is there people they can call or how can they get help to help them? Because I think there's more than a few of these people. Anybody have an answer to that very difficult question?
Richard.
Yes, Undersecretary Densing.
Well, we have a hotline, no? The Department of Social Welfare, the Department of Interior, local governments. We've gone out a hotline so for them to call. And if these are valid issues, at least on the side of the DALG, you can simply tell the barangay to go to their houses, to deliver to them the food that they need. Again, at the end of the day, it's really an issue of survival. So the key element here is really communication. And I'm very, very happy and glad that under the new normal, under a COVID environment, our internet and telecommunications has improved a lot. And I do hope this continues to improve even after COVID-19.
Thank you.
So communication is key. If they can communicate to us, we'll send somebody to go to their homes to give the necessary assistance needed.
It is.
May I say something?
Yes, please, Nina Aguas of Insular Life.
But I think it's very critical that the private sector helps and the communities help, because like in our village, for example, we know that they are like garbage collectors and really the drivers who could not come in because they don't have, they're on lockdown, and so is the entire village. But we're finding the means to be able to provide food and financial assistance to these people. One time I had to wake up at 5 in the morning to make sure that I see the garbage collectors, so that I could hand them some money to buy for their meals for a week. But it's really moving the way the private sector is responding to all this. And I think without us looking out for one another, it's not going to be possible for government to really provide for each and every one. So we have to hold hands here with government and do the best we can in our small circles. Start small. Start with your own community.
That's true, Nina. It's a very good point. I think Undersecretary Densing and O'Malley, they're all doing their part. Certainly the government is, but we can't just rely on the government. We all have to do our part. Yes, please, Nick.
Yeah, very quickly. I think just like what mentioned, but it must be emphasized that the present government structure that we have right now has national government, provinces, cities, municipalities, then barangays. Ang barangay po ang mukha ng ating pamahalaan sa pinaka level na kayang-kaya po nating puntahan ng ating mga mamamayan. So it's really true that the caller, the texter, should really go to the barangay, and then the barangay leader should guide the texter or the caller or whoever is in this kind of situation how to address his issue, because our government has clear programs on how to address that particular issue, from social amelioration allowance to the distribution of relief goods. And if they're not getting anything, by just going to the barangay and making known their issue, that should be addressed. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, too. Both excellent comments and information. So I think that should be about it. We're a bit over time because it was so interesting for me. So thank you very much, everyone. We had on the call, for your background, Vic Tree of PLDT, Norman Agatep. We had Nina Aguas of Insular Life, Undersecretary O'Malley of Education, and Undersecretary Densing of DILG. Thank you very much for being with us for Asia CEO Forum Online.